How our friendship unexpectedly turned into real love. Have you ever been stranded in the middle of nowhere, relying on the kindness of a friend, only to realize the person you thought loved you couldn't care less? Because that's exactly where I found myself, broken down in the desert heat, when a phone call shattered not just my car, but my entire relationship. I'm 26 and I was on a road trip with Sam, my guy best friend. Miley, my girlfriend of 10 months, was waiting for us at our destination. I should mention I own my house outright. No mortgage, bought it 3 years ago when my electrical contracting business took off. I built a pretty successful life. No. I slammed my palm against the steering wheel as the engine made one last pathetic wheeze, steam pouring from under the hood like a dragon's final breath. The air conditioning cut out, leaving us in instant, crushing heat. Well, this is fantastic, Sam muttered from the passenger seat, already rolling down his window. Middle of nowhere, Nevada. Probably 110 degrees and we're officially stranded. I stared at the empty highway. Not a single car had passed in an hour. My phone showed one measly bar. Frantically, I dialed my boyfriend, Mark. Come on, pick up, I whispered. Voicemail. Of course. Hey babe, it's me. Our car broke down, we're stuck on Route 50, somewhere between nowhere and the middle of nowhere. Call me back immediately. This is kind of an emergency. Sam, ever practical, was already popping the hood. Let me guess, straight to voicemail? He's probably in a meeting, I said, a little too defensively. He's got that big presentation today, right? Sam disappeared behind the hood. Hand me that water bottle, would you? I grabbed it and walked over. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The engine compartment was a mechanical disaster zone. So, what's the verdict, Dr. Mechanic? I asked. Radiator hose gave up the ghost, maybe the water pump too. Without proper tools. He shrugged. We're dead in the water. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark. In back-to-back meetings until 6 o'clock. What's up? Are you kidding me? I stared at the screen. Back-to-back meetings? I told him it was an emergency. Sam glanced at my phone. What did he say? He said he's in meetings until 6 o'clock. It's barely 2 o'clock. For more hours, huh? Sam's voice was carefully neutral, but I caught something in his tone. Well, I guess we're on our own then. I texted back frantically. Car completely dead. Stranded in middle of desert. Need help now. The response came almost instantly. Can't talk right now. Call AAA. Call AAA? I said aloud, incredulous. Does he think I'm an idiot? Sam looked up. I take it Prince Charming isn't riding to the rescue. The AAA representative was polite but unhelpful. Sorry ma'am, earliest we can get a tow is tomorrow morning. You're in a pretty remote area. Tomorrow morning? My voice cracked. We can't stay out here overnight. I understand your frustration. You might try flagging down a passing vehicle. I hung up, defeated. Tomorrow morning, I told Sam. The earliest they can get here is tomorrow morning. Awesome. He wiped his hands on his jeans. Okay, new plan. I think I can jury-rig something with the spare hose from the windshield washer system. It's not ideal, but it might get us to the next town. You can do that? I can try. He was already pulling tools from his backpack. Not just a basic kit, but actual mechanical tools. My dad made me learn this stuff when I got my first car. Said I'd thank him someday. I watched him work, systematic, confident. Meanwhile, I kept checking my phone. Another text from Mark. Babe, I'm sure it's not that bad. Cars break down all the time. Just wait for the tow truck. Just wait for the tow truck, I read aloud. He says it's not that bad. Sam paused. Did you tell him we're stuck in the desert with no shade and it's over 100 degrees? Of course I did. And his advice is to wait it out. I was genuinely angry now. He's acting like this is no big deal. Sam didn't say anything for a moment, just continued working. Then, without looking up, you know, in the 3 years I've known you, I don't think I've ever seen him actually show up when you needed him. That's not fair. He glanced at me, then back at the engine. Remember when you got food poisoning last month? Who drove you to urgent care at 2 o'clock in the morning? You did, and when your apartment flooded? Who spent the entire weekend helping you move your stuff and deal with the insurance company? You, but that's different. You're my friend. His voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it. I'm your friend. What does that make him? Before I could answer, he straightened up. Okay, I think I've got something here. It's not pretty and it's definitely not permanent, but it might work. He'd connected a windshield washer hose to bridge the radiator line. It looked like automotive surgery performed with duct tape and prayer. Will it hold? Long enough to get us to civilization. Hopefully. My phone rang. Finally, thank God. I answered. Where have you been? I've been texting you for over an hour. I told you I'm in meetings. Mark sounded irritated. Look, I only have a minute. What's the big emergency? Our car broke down. We're stranded in the desert. Okay, well, did you call roadside assistance? Of course I called roadside assistance. They can't get here until tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? That seems excessive. Are you sure you called the right number? I looked at Sam, who was making final adjustments to his makeshift repair, pretending not to listen. Yes, I'm sure I called the right number. The heat wave has everyone's car breaking down, and we're in the middle of nowhere. Well, I don't know what you want me to do about it from here. I can't exactly teleport to Nevada. I want you to care. I want you to act like your girlfriend being stranded in the desert is more important than your stupid meetings. My stupid meetings? These meetings are paying for our trip in case you forgot. And for the record, you're not exactly stranded if Sam is there with you. The line went quiet. Even Sam looked up. What's that supposed to mean? I asked. Nothing. Look, I have to go. Just figure it out. Okay. You're both adults. He hung up. I stared at the phone, not quite believing what I'd just heard. Sam was watching me, his expression unreadable. Everything okay? He asked quietly. He said we should just figure it out because we're both adults. My voice sounded hollow. And that I'm not really stranded since you're here. Sam didn't respond immediately. He turned back to the engine. Okay, he said finally. Let's see if this works. He climbed into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine cranked once, twice, then caught with a rough idle. Steam still rose, but less dramatically. It's running? I said, surprised. It's running, he agreed. Question is, for how long? I think we can make it to the next town if we take it easy. I got in the passenger seat. The AC wasn't working, so Sam rolled down all the windows. We pulled back onto the empty highway, hot desert air whipping through the car. You know, Sam said after a few minutes, I meant what I said earlier. He kept his eyes on the road. About him never showing up when you need him. I started to argue, then stopped. As much as I wanted to defend Mark, I couldn't think of a single time in the past year when he'd actually dropped everything to help me with a real problem. It was always Sam. Sam who drove me to urgent care. Sam who helped me move. Sam who fixed my computer. I never asked you to do those things, I said quietly. I know, he glanced at me then back at the road. That's not why I do them. The engine made a concerning noise and he immediately pulled over. We weren't going to make it much further on this repair. We limped into a tiny town called Desert Springs. Sam pulled into the parking lot of what looked like the only gas station for 50 miles. Well, we made it this far, he said, turning off the engine. But I don't think we're going much further without real parts. The gas station was ancient. Car trouble? The elderly man behind the counter asked. Radiator hose, Sam explained. Don't suppose you carry any automotive parts? The man chuckled. Son, I've got motor oil, windshield washer fluid, and air fresheners. Anything more complicated than that, you'll need to wait for Benny. Who's Benny? Local mechanic. But he's gone fishing until Thursday. My heart sank. Thursday? It's Tuesday. Yeah. Goes fishing every week. Won't be back until Thursday afternoon. Is there anywhere else? Sam asked. Next town with a real mechanic is about 60 miles north, but I wouldn't recommend trying to make it in that car. My phone had been buzzing. 3 more texts from Mark, each more irritating than the last. How's it going? Fixed yet? You've been gone all day. Starting to think you planned this whole breakdown thing. Seriously though, when are you coming back? I made dinner reservations for tonight. He made dinner reservations? I stared in disbelief. We're stranded in the middle of nowhere and he's worried about dinner reservations. Sam looked over my shoulder. He thinks you planned this. I typed furiously. Car still broken. Stuck until Thursday. Cancel the reservations. His response was immediate. Thursday? That's ridiculous. Just rent a car. I showed Sam the message. Just rent a car because obviously there's a rental agency in Desert Springs, population 12. Actually, population's about 40, the attendant corrected helpfully. But yeah, no rental cars. Sam walked outside to examine our car again. The duct tape was coming loose. So what are our options? I asked. Tow us back to a bigger city, but that's a fortune. Wait here until Thursday. He paused. Or I could try to find the parts and do a more permanent fix myself. Where are you going to find parts out here? Junkyard. Most small towns have one. Sam convinced the junkyard owner to let us poke around for $20. While he disappeared into a maze of rusted vehicles, I tried calling Mark again. He answered. Finally, he said not, hello. I've been waiting to hear from you. Did you get the car fixed? No, we didn't get the car fixed. We're in some tiny town, and the only mechanic won't be back until Thursday. Thursday? Come on, you're being dramatic. There has to be someone else. I'm not being dramatic. We're literally in the middle of the desert. Look, I get that you're frustrated, but you need to figure this out. I already had to cancel our dinner reservations, and now people are asking where you are. People are asking? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What did you tell them? I told them you and Sam went on some spontaneous road trip adventure and lost track of time. Lost track of time? Our car is broken. I know that, but I can't exactly tell everyone my girlfriend is stranded in the desert, can I? It makes me look bad. The words hit me like a physical blow. It makes you look bad? You know what I mean. Like I can't take care of my own girlfriend. But you can't take care of me? You haven't even tried to help. What exactly am I supposed to do from 300 miles away? I can't fix your car remotely. From across the junkyard, I heard Sam call out triumphantly. Found one. This might actually work. Who was that? Mark asked. Sam. He found a part that might fix our car. Of course he did. There was something nasty in his tone. Sam to the rescue again. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Forget it. No. What did you mean by that? Just that it's convenient how Sam always manages to solve your problems. Makes me wonder what you do without him. I felt heat rising in my chest. Are you seriously making this about Sam right now? He's the only reason we're not still sitting on the side of the highway. Right. Saint Sam never does anything wrong. At least he's here. At least he's trying to help instead of making dinner reservations and worrying about what people think. You know what? Call me when you're ready to come home and stop acting like a child. He hung up on me. Again. I stood in the scorching heat, holding my dead phone, feeling more alone than I had in years. Sam emerged, carrying a slightly used radiator hose. This should do it. He took one look at my expression. What happened? He hung up on me again. Sam set down the parts carefully. What did he say? He said I was acting like a child, and that it's convenient how you always solve my problems. Sam was quiet for a moment. You know what's convenient? Having someone who actually cares enough to stick around when things get difficult. Sam, no. I'm serious. Do you want to know what I did when you called me yesterday morning to tell me you were excited about this trip? I cleared my entire weekend, took Monday and Tuesday off work, told my sister I couldn't help her move after all because I had plans with you. I stared at him. You didn't tell me you had to cancel things. Because I wanted to be here. Because spending time with you matters more to me than anything else I had planned. He picked up the radiator hose, examining it closely. When's the last time he canceled something important to spend time with you? I tried to think of an example. Came up empty. That's what I thought. Sam's voice wasn't angry, just tired. You want to know what's really convenient? Having a boyfriend who treats you like an inconvenience unless everything's going perfectly. He's not usually like this, isn't he? Sam looked at me directly. Be honest with yourself. When have you ever had a real problem that he actually helped you solve? I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. We both knew it. Come on, Sam said, shouldering his toolbox. Let's get this car fixed so we can figure out what we're doing next. Sam worked on the car for the next 2 hours. The temperature climbed even higher, sweat dripped steadily from his face. My phone had been buzzing constantly, but I'd ignored them. Finally, I looked down to see a string of increasingly frustrated texts from Mark. You're not responding. Are you mad at me? This is ridiculous. You're being childish. Fine, stay mad. See if I care. By the way, Chad asked where you were at lunch today. Had to make up some story about you having car trouble so he wouldn't think you just ditched our plans. People are starting to talk. Jenny asked if we broke up. Call me back. This is getting embarrassing. I screenshotted the messages. Then I noticed something. The timestamp on his "in meetings until 6" text from earlier was 2:15 p.m. But his message about having lunch with Chad was timestamped 2:45 p.m. He wasn't in back-to-back meetings. He was having lunch with friends while I was stranded in the desert. That lying piece of garbage, I muttered. What now? Sam asked. I showed him the screenshots. He said he was in meetings all afternoon, but look at this. He was having lunch with Chad at 2:45. Sam studied the messages, his expression darkening. So he lied about being unavailable. And now he's worried about what people are thinking about how this looks for him. He turned back to the engine, tightening something with more force than necessary. God forbid anyone think he can't control his girlfriend. Before I could respond, a beat-up pickup truck pulled into the gas station. 2 men got out, both looking like they'd been drinking. Having some car trouble there, friend? The larger one called out, swaggering over. Nothing I can't handle, Sam replied politely, not looking up. That's a nice car, the second man said, running his hand along the paint. You two heading somewhere special? Just passing through, Sam said firmly, moving slightly between me and the 2 men. Come on now. No need to be unfriendly. We're just trying to help out some stranded travelers. The man's tone shifted, becoming less friendly. Seems to me like you could use all the help you can get. That's when my phone rang. I saw Mark's name and without thinking answered. Thank God you finally called back. I said loud enough for everyone to hear. We've got some guys here bothering us and… Whoa, slow down. Mark interrupted. Guys bothering you? What guys? There are these 2 men who showed up and they're being really creepy and… Are you serious right now? You're calling me about some random people talking to you? I thought this was an actual emergency. The 2 men had heard every word. They exchanged glances. Emergency? The larger one chuckled mockingly. Sounds like your boyfriend doesn't think you're in any real trouble. I felt my face burn with humiliation. Can you please just, I started to say into the phone. Look, I don't know what you want me to do about random people in Nevada. Deal with it yourself. You've got Sam there, right? The line went dead again. The two men burst out laughing. Boyfriend hung up on you? The first one said. That's rough, sweetheart. Sounds like he doesn't much care what happens to you out here. Sam slammed the hood of the car down hard enough to make everyone jump. Time for you two to move along. Or what? The second man stepped closer. Or I'll make you. I had never seen Sam look like this. He was normally the most easygoing person I knew. But standing there, covered in grease and sweat, he looked genuinely dangerous. The two men must have seen it too, because after a moment of tense staring, they backed off. Whatever, man. Your loss. They got back in their pickup and drove off. My hands were shaking as I put my phone away. You okay? Sam asked softly. No, I said honestly. No, I'm really not okay. Sam started the car. Miraculously, it turned over smoothly. The temperature gauge stayed normal. It's fixed. I asked. It's fixed, he managed a small smile. Should get us wherever we need to go now. We drove in silence for a while, both processing what had just happened. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. He hung up on me, I said quietly. Those guys were clearly bad news and he hung up on me. And they heard everything. They heard him say it wasn't an emergency. They heard him tell me to deal with it myself. Sam's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Yeah, and I was there. But what if you hadn't been? What if I'd been alone? Sam pulled over at a scenic overlook. Can I ask you something? Sam said finally. Sure. When was the last time he made you feel safe? The question hit me like a punch to the stomach. What do you mean? I mean, when was the last time something bad happened or you were scared or worried, and calling him made you feel better instead of worse? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Every crisis I'd had in the past year, every moment I'd needed support or help or just someone to listen, it had been Sam. I can't remember, I admitted. Sam nodded like he'd expected that answer. You want to know what I think? What? I think you deserve someone who would move heaven and earth to get to you if you were in trouble. Someone who would cancel every meeting, drive all night, spend every dollar they had to make sure you were safe. Sam, I'm not saying it has to be me. His voice was quiet, careful. I'm just saying it should be someone. And it sure as hell shouldn't be someone who hangs up on you when strangers are making you uncomfortable. My phone buzzed with another text from Mark. Stop being stubborn. Just take a bus home and we'll laugh about this whole thing next week. A bus. He wanted me to abandon our road trip, abandon our car, abandon Sam, and take a bus home so we could laugh about it next week. I looked at Sam, who was already planning out the repair in his head, muttering about compression fittings and cooling capacity. He'd spent his own money, ruined his clothes, and was about to spend hours in the blazing heat fixing my car, and my boyfriend wanted me to get on a bus. For the first time since this whole mess started, I was beginning to understand exactly what that meant. We drove in comfortable silence until we reached a small roadside diner. Sam pulled in. I don't know about you, but I'm starving and I could use some air conditioning. We slid into a booth and I finally felt myself starting to relax. Honestly, I feel like an idiot, I said, stirring sugar into my iced tea. 2 years, Sam. I wasted 2 years on someone who was basically living a double life. You're not an idiot. You trusted someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a character flaw. I should have seen the signs. What signs? That he was a good liar? Before I could respond, the bell above the diner door chimed. I looked up. It was Mark. My stomach dropped. How did he find us? I whispered. Sam turned. GPS probably. If he has access to your phone's location. Mark strode over, furious and desperate. We need to talk, he said, ignoring Sam. No, we don't. Yes, we do. You can't just blow up our entire relationship over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I finally looked at him. You introduced another woman as your girlfriend. You told people we broke up months ago. What part of that is a misunderstanding? Keep your voice down, he hissed, glancing around. Worried about what people will think? Sam leaned back, arms crossed. Funny how you're concerned about privacy now. Mark finally acknowledged Sam. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does, Sam said calmly. See, I'm the one who's been taking care of your girlfriend while you've been playing house with someone else. Taking care of her? Is that what you call it? The trucker at the counter was openly watching now. Yeah, Sam said. Taking care of her. You know, actually being there when she needs help. Novel concept, I know, right? And I'm sure you've been a perfect gentleman this whole time. I'm sure you haven't been trying to get in her head. Turn her against me. I didn't have to turn her against you. You did that all by yourself. Mark's face was getting redder. You think you're so noble, don't you? Saint Sam, always ready to swoop in and save the day. At least I swoop in. You just hang up. That's enough, I said. But neither of them was listening. You want to know the truth? Mark said, his voice getting louder, addressing the whole diner now. She's been using you for years. Every time she has a problem, every time she needs something fixed or someone to drive her somewhere, she calls you. And you come running like a lovesick puppy. And you know what she does after you solve all her problems. Mark continued. She comes home to me. She sleeps in my bed. She tells me about her day, and doesn't mention you unless it's to complain about how you're always hanging around. I felt like he'd slap me. That's not true. Isn't it? How many times have you told me Sam was being too much? How many times have you said you wished he would back off and give you some space? Sam's face had gone pale. He was looking at me. I started then stopped. Because there was a grain of truth in what Mark was saying. I had complained about Sam being overly helpful sometimes. But I'd said those things because Mark had made me feel guilty about having a male friend who cared about me. He'd made me feel like Sam's kindness was somehow inappropriate. See? Mark said triumphantly. She's been stringing you along this whole time, and you were too pathetic to see it. That's when Sam stood up. Quick and fluid. He towered over Mark. You want to call me pathetic? Sam's voice was quiet but dangerous. Let's talk about pathetic. Pathetic is lying to your girlfriend for months. Pathetic is bringing dates to parties while she's taking care of her sick family. Pathetic is hanging up on her when she's scared and needs help. Pathetic is driving 300 miles to hunt down your girlfriend in a diner because you're terrified she's going to tell people what you really are. What I really am. A coward. A liar. A man so insecure that you're threatened by someone who actually gives a damn about her. The entire diner was silent. Mark looked around at the hostile faces. Fine, he said. Fine, you want him? You can have him. But don't come crying to me when you realize he's not the man you think he is. Don't come crawling back when the novelty wears off and you remember all the reasons you chose me in the first place. I chose you, I said quietly, because I didn't think I deserved better. But I do deserve better and I'm done settling for less. You'll regret this. Sam stepped forward slightly and Mark backed up. The only thing she'll regret, Sam said, is not figuring out what you really were sooner. And what am I, exactly? Sam looked at him then said simply, gone? It wasn't angry or dramatic. Just a statement of fact. Mark stormed out. The trucker at the counter snorted. Well, good riddance. Sounds like you're better off without him. The waitress refused to let us pay for our coffee. Any man who hangs up on his girl when she's in trouble isn't worth the dirt on her shoes. The elderly couple invited us to sit with them for dessert. It was like the entire room had collectively adopted us. Honey, the elderly woman said, patting my hand, that man just drove 300 miles and faced down your crazy ex-boyfriend. If that's not a declaration of intent, I don't know what is. 20 minutes later, we were back in the car heading west toward the mountains. My phone, which I'd finally turned back on, was buzzing constantly with notifications. I ignored them all. So, Sam said as we merged onto the highway. That happened. I looked at him. Thank you for everything today, but especially for standing up to him back there. You stood up to him too. That speech about deserving better, that was all you. I meant what I said, you know. About being done settling for less. Sam nodded. Good. You shouldn't settle. Not ever. We drove in comfortable silence for a while, the desert giving way to hills, then mountains. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sam, I said. Yeah. What you said back at the overlook. About being in love with me? His hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Yeah. Did you mean it? Every word. And you've really felt that way for 2 years? About 2.5 actually. But who's counting? I looked out at the desert landscape then back at Sam. Really looked at him. The strong hands that had fixed my car. The patient eyes that had watched me figure out the truth about my relationship. The steady presence that had been there through every crisis, every celebration, every ordinary Tuesday for the past 3 years. I said slowly, I'd like to find out what it feels like to be with someone who actually wants to be with me. Sam glanced over at me, hope flickering in his expression. Yeah. I reached over and took his hand. I think I'd like that very much. He squeezed my fingers gently, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. My phone buzzed one last time. I glanced at it and saw a text from my ex. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. I deleted it without reading the rest, then turned the phone off completely. Some mistakes, I thought as we drove toward the mountains, were actually the best decisions you never knew you wanted to make. So what do you think? Have you ever had a moment where you realized the person who was always there for you wasn't who you thought, and the true hero was someone else entirely? What would you have done in that diner? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.